Got a super chat from Sonny Rawson to kick it off. Thank you for the super chat, Sonny Rawson. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much, Sonny Rawson, for the super chat. Sonny writes, "Hey Lou, happy belated. Appreciate that. Assuming all goes well with his recovery, I feel like the roster is pretty similar to what we went 6-3 with Smith. Do you see any friction with him possibly pushing to play?" And that's really the big question, and that's kind of what I alluded to. Alex Smith in his career hasn't really been a backup. And look, he's a gracious guy. He's very humble, but he's a competitor. And so you can be really humble and all that stuff, but you want to play. You're a competitor. And if he feels like he's healthy enough, he doesn't want to stand on the sideline holding a clipboard or wearing a headset. That's not what he's here to do if he feels like he can contribute on the field. That being said, I think he understands the dynamic, that, look, I was out for, what amounts to 2 seasons, essentially, or a year and a half. They've had to do things in that time period because of my injury to, circumvent my injury. And they brought in a young guy. He's the future at the position, obviously. And so my job is to be ready in case of an emergency, but also help him become the best quarterback that he can be, similar to what he did with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. Now, a lot different in Kansas City, different circumstances. He was never the backup in Kansas City. He helped Patrick Mahomes learn while he was still the starter. So it's not like, hey, I've got to take a back seat. I understand that Mahomes is the future. He's playing. I'm here to help him and support him in any way I can. That wasn't the case in Kansas City. Alex Smith was still the starter, but he was mentoring Patrick Mahomes while he was still starting. That's not the case here initially, and we're hoping permanently that's not the case here, that Dwayne goes in and shows everybody right out of the gates, this is my team, this is what I was brought here to do, and I'm the guy, and then Alex can then help him every step of the way from that point forward. But if there's any doubts that is allowed to creep into the coaching staff, that Dwayne isn't getting it, or he's slow to process some things, he isn't maximizing the opportunities on the football field, and this team is losing games because of it. That's the big thing, because if we're just not very good on defense, offense, and Dwayne is the least of our problems, then you don't bench Dwayne because of that. But if you're in ball games and the inability of this offense to put up points, and you go back and watch the film, and Dwayne is the reason why this offense isn't scoring more points, then that's when you start looking at the position and saying, maybe we need to make a change, and maybe Alex Smith is the guy that ultimately is thrusted into the fray. So, I don't think, to your point, I don't think that there'll be any friction for Alex to play. I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to make noise and make a scene if he's not getting an opportunity to play. I don't see Alex Smith being that type of guy. Obviously, he wants to play. If he feels like he's healthy enough to play and he feels like he's back to where he was prior to the injury, then he's going to want to play. He's a competitor. But I don't think he's going to be like Adrian Peterson was back in 2018 when he was with the Saints and he wasn't getting any run, and he was stalking Sean Payton on the sidelines, balking at him, telling him he needed some reps. So I don't think that's going to be what you get from Alex Smith. But as far as this roster being similar to when we were 6-3, hard for me to say that this roster is any better than we were when we were 6-3. But I mean, when you think about that team that was 6-3, we were fool's gold that year. And I think most of you understand that. I mean, some of you don't. Some of you felt like if Alex Smith would have stayed healthy, we would have won 10 games and won the division. And maybe that would have happened. I don't think that was going to happen. I don't think we would have finished the season the way that we did at 7-9. I think we would have been 8-8, possibly 9-7 had Alex Smith. There were games there that I thought were winnable had Alex Smith been our quarterback. Obviously, that Titans game that we lost, very winnable football game. Hell, we probably should have won that game. I forgot the name of the receiver that we had on the roster. I think it was Michael Floyd. If his ass could catch, we probably win that football game, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know if this roster is any worse than that, because that wasn't a good roster. When you look back at that 6-3 team from 2018, you look back at that roster, we weren't very good that year either. Like, You went out, you signed Paul Richardson. He got hurt midway through the season, so he wasn't really. When was Paul Richardson ever really available in his short time here as a Washington Redskin? So, I mean, think about how we finished that season off with Michael Floyd at wide receiver. Like, think about that for a second. We were so banged up and diminished that even if Alex Smith had stayed healthy, I don't really think we were going to do anything major that year. We were so banged up. So, you know, when I look back at that roster, you know, DJ Swearinger, you swap him out for Landon Collins. I think that's an upgrade. I felt like Monte Nicholson was a much better player back in 2018, you know, than maybe Sean Davis is coming in going to be for us in 2020. I don't know. It's hard to really say. We were still high on Josh Norman back in 2018. Not, you know, we don't even know if we have a number one corner on the team right now as we sit here in 2020. You know, the linebacker position, the front seven, we think is a massive upgrade just from a coaching standpoint, just from a talent standpoint, and a scheme from a schematics standpoint. So I think you could say it's an upgrade there. You look on the offensive side of the football, we had Trent Williams back in 2018. So obviously left tackle, the offensive line in general was much better back in 2018, if you ask me. Excuse me. Obviously, the talent at the running back position, man, I guess you could say that it's a wash because we still really don't know. Let's be honest with ourselves. We still don't really know what we have at the running back position. Think about that for a second, because Geis is a wild card. He hasn't stayed healthy. You can't count on him for 16 games. Hell, you can't even count on him for 8 games right now. Hell, you can't even count on him for 4 games right now. So you don't know what you're getting from him. You don't know what you're getting out of J.D. McKissick. You don't know what you're getting out of Antonio Gibson and how they're going to utilize him. You don't know if Bryce Love is even medically cleared to play football or not. And you look at Adrian Peterson and say, he's the only known commodity in the backfield right now. So really the running back position is a big question mark. So it's hard to say, yeah, running back's better. Wide receiver, obviously, I don't think you could get any worse than what we were in that time frame. Like 2018, we weren't very good at receiver. And really, we haven't fully recovered. We never fully recovered from the offseason of 2016, if you really want to be frank. We really never recovered from Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon leaving this football team in that offseason of 2016. Because we haven't really ever replaced those guys. We think we've replaced one of them now with Terry, but we still need that chain mover, that possession receiver. We thought Kelvin Harmon might be that guy. Maybe Antonio Gandy-Golden is that guy for us. We'll see. But, you know, Jamison Crowder was solid. We think we've replaced him with Steven Sims. We'll see. But we need that chain mover. We need that guy that moves the sticks. And we're hoping Antonio Gandy-Golden is that guy, the Gandhi man. And also a big-time threat in the red zone. We're hoping he's a guy that at the 7-yard line, they can just throw a back shoulder fade to, or he can run a slant, use his frame to shield off the defender and catch the football. We're looking for someone to help us cash in the red zone, and we're hoping that guy is AGG. If we get that, then the receiver position, I think it would be actually much improved from 2018. I actually go on record as saying I feel like the receiver position is better now than it was in 2018. But that's me going out on a limb because I have no empirical proof that this roster or the receiver position for that matter is any better than it was in 2018. But I feel like you're probably right. At the end of the day, it's probably comparable. That 2018 roster probably very comparable to the one we have now. I think we're more talented now, but we don't know if they're going to produce or not. And that's the big question mark. You know, there's some places that you can point to and say, no, we were definitely more talented there in 2018 than in 2020. Obviously, you start on the offensive line. I think that's where you start when you start talking about, hey, we were more talented then than now. But that's probably the only position. Maybe cornerback. Maybe the secondary was a little bit better or perceived to be a little bit better back in 2018 than it is right now. But and tight end, obviously. You know, you got Jordan Reed, you got Vernon Davis in 2018. That goes without saying. Neither one of them could block. But at least we had a pass-catching threat. We're not sure if we even have one of those on the roster right now. So at the end of the day, I think that we've got a bunch of question marks on the roster, but I'd venture to say that this roster is probably a lot more talented than it was in 2018. I shouldn't say that. It's probably a little bit more talented than it was in 2018. So, yeah, it's a comparable roster, but remember, that team was fool's gold because we were playing some bad football teams and we took advantage of it, and we were winning games and it wasn't pretty. And when we played anybody with any kind of talent, like Atlanta, who wasn't very good in 2018, if you remember, they came into our house and stomped a mud hole in us. Anytime we played anybody with any kind of offensive firepower, we got smashed. A la the Saints when Drew Brees broke the record and it was Drew Brees porn night on ESPN on Monday Night Football. So anytime we saw anybody with any kind of talent offensively, we got smoked in 2018. Let's hope that that isn't the case in 2020. So thank you for the super chat, Sonny Rawson. Greatly appreciate you. As we move on to the next super chat, got another one here. This one is from Brian Haynes. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Brian Haynes. My man Brian writes, as much as I am happy to have Alex Smith being healthy, I just see him being on the sideline mentoring Dwayne Haskins and Kyle Allen. Now, if Dwayne and Kyle go down, knock on wood, and I'll go ahead and provide that knock for you, Alex Smith would be the last option to put in. You're probably right. And I hope you're right. I feel like, and this is kind of the message that Rivera has been, kind of pushing out to us this entire offseason. Now, I told you he's a guy that you usually just take him on face value. And Ron hasn't lied to us yet. And from all reports, from everyone out there that has spoken to Ron in the past that knows him, they're like, look, this is a straightforward guy. He's pretty much going to wear his emotions on his sleeve. He's going to tell you how he feels. And so you don't have to ever really guess with Ron Rivera. You're going to know how he feels because he's going to tell you. And Ron has said all offseason, kind of really want to see what the young boys are doing. Kind of want to see what they've got for us because they're the future. We're not a veteran team really, and we're not looking to necessarily look. They want to win ball games right away. If they could go 10-6 in year one of Ron Rivera, that's what they're looking to do. They're not conceding the season like some fans out there. I'm not conceding the season. I just don't think we're going to be very good. They're going to go out and bust their ass and try to win games. It's just not going to be good enough to win some games. But at the end of the day, I think they understand that this is a process. And Rivera has said, look, not only is coming in and changing the culture going to be a process and priority number one, but this entire organization is a process. And I'm going to come in and try to build this thing up the right way. And that includes the roster and building it with young football players and trying to figure out what we have. The only way you do that is by playing the young boys. You keep putting in veterans and you keep pushing and repressing the young boys. How the hell do you know what they can do if you don't give them a chance to play? So I think you're absolutely 100% spot on that in an ideal situation, Alex Smith shouldn't be doing anything but mentoring Dwayne Haskins and Kyle Smith. Or Kyle Allen, excuse me. That's what he should be doing. All right. But, as I mentioned at the top of the show, and I've talked about in the past, and I told you Carolina Panthers fans have told me this, Ron Rivera can be a little bit, forward leaning towards the veterans, and again, he can be a little bit deferential to veterans to a fault. And so we'll see what happens. But if this is done the right way, and I think it will be, he'll be number 3 on the depth chart. And as you mentioned, if something were to happen to Dwayne, knock on wood, Kyle Allen, I've got to stop calling him Kyle Smith. Kyle Allen should be the next guy in. That should be how this goes. Because, as I mentioned, Kyle Allen is on a 1-year deal, all right? So you need to find out if this guy is a credible backup quarterback for you moving forward. And I think they know what Kyle Allen is, and they feel confident that this is a guy they'll probably want back moving forward. But I look at this football team and the direction that they're going, and it's a young man movement. That's how I perceive this to be. And that includes Alex Smith potentially just being a mentor moving forward. So I like you, think that he should be nothing more than a mentor on the sidelines for these guys, in the film room, in the weight room, showing these guys how to work. That should be his role, and he's done that to an extent already. Remember, he was around the team last year to a degree. So I think he's done that a bit already, but I look forward to him potentially doing that more, as you mentioned, and as you said, I couldn't be more happy for Alex Smith, man. I'm glad to hear that he's 100% healthy and physically able to resume football activities. Like I said, never thought I would actually say that. So, I like you. I'm really happy for him. But I don't think he should be playing if it were up to me. So thank you for the super chat, Brian Haynes. Greatly appreciate you. My man B.D. Barrett Downing, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Barrett Downing. Thank you for the super chat. My man B.D. writes, hey, Lou, I get that he wants to play, but I feel like he's messing with his livelihood. Retire and don't risk it. HTT question mark. Again, who are we to tell him what to do? I feel like you do. Why are we even having this discussion? You've made a ton of money. You've got to play out your dreams. You've played in this league for a very long time. You've won a bunch of ball games. Never quite ever got to the apex, but you're not going to do that in 2020 or 2021 more likely than not with this with this Washington football team. So what difference does it make? No reason for you to risk your livelihood or risk quality of life moving forward. And again, he may not actually be risking any of those things. We're no doctors here. I did sleep at a Holiday Inn last night, but we're no doctors here. We don't know. He could go out there and nothing happen. Like, he could be perfectly fine. But it's just hard for us to erase the images of this guy, his leg bending in a way that your leg is not supposed to bend. Him writhing in pain on the ground. Seeing his bone poking out of his skin. We all remember this. Watching that Texans game. All right. Watching Project 11 and seeing what this guy went through and knowing that he almost lost his life. Knowing that they had to take a graft and pieces of bones from other parts of his body just to repair his leg. All right. Limb salvage surgery is what it was called. Limb salvage surgery is what it was called. Like, you shouldn't be playing football after you had limb salvage surgery, okay? Like, that's how I process all of this. But again, I'm not Alex Smith, all right? I'm not the guy who has played and spent half of his life playing football. The vast majority of his life playing football. I'm not the guy who has played at a high level for over a decade, who has this ingrained in him and wants to continue doing the thing that has brought you so much joy throughout your life. I'm not him, and I can't tell him that he can't continue to do the thing that has really made him who he is. But as a fan and as a guy who wants to see you have a great quality of life, I would just say why. But he'll tell you very quickly, because I want to. That's good enough, and if he feels like the risk is worth it, by all means, knock yourself out. I just feel like if everything goes the way that it's supposed to, he'll never get a chance to play anyway. And that's the way I would prefer it. He comes back. He's put himself in a position to play. But hey, we got that position already locked up. Got a guy here that's playing at a high level, and we don't really need you to see the field. But we love your presence here, and we ask that you continue to mentor and lead these guys, in the locker room and on the sidelines. So we'll see what happens. But I like you. He doesn't necessarily have to retire. If you can still get a check, why not? But I don't need to see him on the field. But, we'll see what happens. I think we're a long way from him getting onto the field. As my man Brian Haynes said, that he's probably more likely than not third on the depth chart, and something would have to both happen to both Dwayne and Kyle for him to, and we'll just knock on a little bit of wood again, for him to even be remotely considered to be put into the game. But again, we don't know what Ron Rivera is thinking and how he feels about Alex Smith. And if Alex Smith looks good, who knows where he ends up on the depth chart. I don't think he ends up number 1, but there's a real possibility he could end up number 2 on the depth chart. And as we saw last year, Dwayne's a sprained ankle away from leaving the game for a quarter or two, as we saw in the Green Bay game. Or Dwayne's a rolled up ankle away from being out for 2 weeks. That could easily be Alex Smith, number 11, back into the game. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Louie.